Alright, in this video we're setting up a makeshift double boiler here. I couldn't find the bottom, so I'm just using a regular pot for the bottom with a little water in it. And then I went and put a little water in the top as well because this stuff it's called moulage and it needs moisture. So I just put a little in there, and I'll add some more as I go along to get it the right consistency. You want this stuff to end up being kind of like pancake batter. And it can have a few clumps in it, and it's not going to hurt anything, but it needs to get up to about 140 odd degrees to melt. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting up an old mold and just cutting it into chunks, the smallest chunks that I could make, and quickly do it. And just putting them in the pot, and I'll do this, and I'll cut up about half of the old mold, and then let it heat up and melt, and then I'll put the other half in there, cut it up, let it melt, and any extras I have I'll throw in there at the very end. But once it's all melted is all we're really looking for. Okay, here's the cup that we're going to mold, and all I'm doing is just putting it inside a plastic pitcher. It has some clay on the top of it that I'm going to show you in just a minute how I did that. And all I'm going to do is turn it upside down, put it in there, and then pour the moulage on top of it. That way it leaves the opening at the top where the clay is, and we have moulage everywhere else. So it's going to make a nice even mold all the way around the cup. Okay, here's the little piece of clay, and all I did was roll it out. It's about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch thick, and just put the cup on top of it, press it in a little bit, and just enough that it'll stick, and then stick it back down in the pitcher. That way no moulage gets in the cup and it doesn't stick to the pitcher. Alright, all of the moulage is melted, or at least as far as I wanted to let it go. There's still a few clumps in there, but that's not too bad. I turned the heat off of it, and I've been letting it sit for about an hour. It was a little hot because it melts about 140 to 175 degrees. I wanted it to about 125 degrees, and it is on average about 125 degrees, and I think that's cool enough that it won't melt my plastic 3D printed cup. So all I'm going to do now is give it one last little stir, and then we're going to start the pour. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're just holding down the cup to make sure it doesn't float or move around as I start to pour this. And I'm going to pour it really, really slow, and I'm going to pour it on the side. That way we don't have trapped air bubbles anywhere in the cup, and everything turns out just like we want it to. This stuff takes a while to set, so You can be as slow as you want. You really can. Alright, most of it is poured in, and all I'm doing now is just hitting the sides just to make sure that there's not any air bubbles trapped anywhere. Even though we poured it really slow, there could be an air bubble or two, but just tapping the sides will get the rest of those air bubbles out. I didn't like that there was only a couple of inches, actually not even a couple of inches, of moulage on top of the mold. So what I did was I took some more and just poured it on top, just to make it a good thick base. Alright, this is the next day. Everything is dried up. It's starting to pull away from the sides. You can see around the sides there. It's shrunk just a little bit. And all I'm going to do is just tap it until I get a little air in there to get rid of that vacuum, and then it'll pop right out. Okay, so the surface is nice, smooth, and glossy. It looks just like the inside of the pitcher that it was molded in. So what we're going to do now is just take out the clay from the top. Well, what was the bottom is now the top. We're going to take the clay out, and then we're going to cut it down the sides to make a nice two-part mold. Okay, so what you want to do here is just feel for the side of the cup, and I was making sure that I was hitting the stem and just went down one side. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be straight lines. So I went down one side, I made it all the way down. Now I'm going to flip it around and try and get as close to the middle as I can. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And just make another slice all the way down into the moulage, and just make sure that you hit whatever you're molding. In this case, my cup. I needed to make sure I was hitting my cup. On one of these cuts, I did not cut all the way through, so when I did peel it apart, it ripped a little bit, but it won't hurt the mold at all because it will just seal right back up together. It's such a tight fit. So it's busted apart now, and you can see, I mean, it captured all the little details. I'm showing you the rip right now, but it captured all the little details, even the little layers of lines for the plastic. It doesn't really come out well on video, but it captured everything. It turned out really well. However, as this was a moulage mold, then you cannot cast clay into it. I'll make another video about that later, but it doesn't work well because it sucks all the moisture out of the moulage, and the moulage keeps the clay moist. But you can cast pos moulage in here, or just about any resin or something of that nature. Maybe even foam. You could probably cast foam in there, although I haven't tried that.